like to give to you. So fill out one of those little cards, and you get a gift bag for that. Also, we need, for those of you who are members of Paoli Baptist Church, we want you to be in prayer, constant prayer for PBS, in terms of whether we should have PBS this year. It's one of the things that we shouldn't necessarily assume. We should be going before the Lord and asking, Lord, would you have us to do this or not? So we want the congregation to be in prayer concerning this issue. We will be bringing up at the business meeting. Is it this Wednesday? It's not this Wednesday. It's next Wednesday. Following Wednesday, business meeting. So we have a couple weeks there to continue to lift this up to the Lord. I want to make sure we have enough support from the congregation to put on this outreach. Also, I think it was mentioned, there's a cleaning day. We are really excited about some of the things that we've been doing in terms of just kind of organizing and kind of cleaning up the church here. It's looking good. We want to continue on in that vein. So we've got a special day set aside this coming Saturday to do that. Come on out. It'll be a good time of fellowship. And many hands make light work. I know Tom and Jeff would appreciate the help as trustees. So if you can make it out, please do that. And then as far as the other meetings go, those of you that have a computer, somewhat computer savvy, I want to encourage you to go to our website because it has the dates in terms of the different meetings that we have throughout this quarter. It's just, again, for your understanding. Also, we have changed a little bit, some things around on Wednesday. You will notice that we have the potluck dinner. That's still there and at that time. But the prayer is, it's a Bible study. I want you guys to understand, it's a Bible study / prayer time. And we're going to be going over in the Bible study a concept from Neil Anderson's material entitled Spiritual Warfare, Victory Over Darkness. And it has to do with the aspect of how do we fight against the spiritual forces that are waging war against us. Many of the reasons that Christians are not growing in their faith is because they don't realize they're in bondage to certain sins, to certain things from the enemy. And so we want to be teaching some very good material as it relates to that issue. How can we fight against the spiritual forces that are waging war against us in a very theologically balanced way? It also helps us in terms of growing. So if you can make it out for Bible study, we're going to be almost half the time we spent in Bible study, and then the other half we're going to transition into praying for our own personal needs as well as the needs for the church. So that's Wednesday, a little different in terms of its Bible study and prayer in terms of what we are going to be implementing and changing. You'll also notice that there's some changes in the church, and I'm pretty excited about that as we're continuing with the aspect of kind of upgrading things. We've got the Resource Center. What we are now calling the Resource Center used to be the library, just so you know. And what used to be the Resource Center is now the crafts room, because that's pretty much what we've got in our crafts. So kind of changing the names around. That'll still be in the room where we have all our crafts and supplies. But where the library used to be, it's not a library, but it is going to be a ministry resource room where we're going to have theological books and other Bible study material. We're going to have Bibles, gospel tracts, material that we can hand out to people as we do ministry. As you guys are discipling, being discipled, or as I mentioned, there's some great theological resources there that can be used. So Jeff had helped me out this week in terms of moving the bookcases over there, and so now it's just a matter of getting that organized, as well as we got a little banner out front, kind of advertising. If you will go to that website, find it here, and type in Paoli Baptist, it will send you to our church. So there's that aspect of advertisement for people to kind of check us out. And we're going to be doing some other things here in the forthcoming months and weeks and months to kind of help facilitate our ministry of seeing people, not only in Paoli, come to know Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, but to the outer suburbs and ultimately to the world. I believe that the purpose for this church, Paoli Baptist Church and any church, is to help fulfill the Great Commission, Matthew 28:18. That's why we exist. And so we're all going to be working towards that. In fact, the series that we're going through here dealing with the life of Peter deals basically with this issue. The issue of how we mature as Christians. How do we grow up? We have been looking, we started a series last week. If you have your Bibles, I'd love for you to turn to Matthew's Gospel. We're going to continue to look at the life of Peter and to look to see how did God work in Peter's life to bring him to spiritual maturity. Discipleship is a very important method. It's biblical, which God uses to grow us up. And as we look at Peter, hopefully what we can do is we can glean some insights in terms of how God is going to work in our lives, as well as how He's going to work in the people that we are rubbing shoulders with, that we're trying to minister, that we're trying to either reach for Christ or we're trying to help them in terms of growing in their faith. Oh gosh, many years ago, I was probably a sophomore in college. I was involved in a Christian organization. It was very evangelical. It was very discipleship oriented. And we had a chance to, every summer, this organization put on special projects, stateside as well as overseas, in terms of where students can go to get training in how to share the gospel and how to disciple and to develop leadership skills. And a good friend of mine, Jeff, and I had decided that we believed that God was calling us to go to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where this organization had a project. It was a beach project. And the objective was to get a job and work in the community. And then you would be trained throughout the summer. And not only in terms of what is the gospel message, but actually doing it. I was talking with a gentleman just about an hour ago in the office. We were talking about this principle of crusade where they would send out people. Campus Crusade for Christ was the organization, 2 by 2 to do evangelism. You never went alone. You know, one of the philosophies of Campus Crusade is that with sharing the gospel, going to a Bible study, going to church, you always brought somebody with you, which I think is a good principle. Anyway, Jeff and I, we were going down to Myrtle Beach to try to find jobs. We wanted to get ahead of the curve. Most of the students that were going there was about 50 students from all across the U.S. that were involved with this organization that were coming there to be trained. They were going to get there and find jobs, but Jeff and I wanted to get there ahead of the curve or ahead of the crowd to find jobs. So we left early, it was late spring, probably sometime in April. I didn't have Friday classes, so we took off Thursday night to drive down from Kent, Ohio. I went to do my undergrad work at Kent State University. And so we left from Kent, Ohio, which is just near Akron, and drove all night to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Why? Because we wanted to find jobs, and then we had that secured, and then we'd be ready to go when the semester was over and head for that project. Well, it was a rainy night. In fact, it rained the whole night. Jeff, my idea was, well, Jeff, why don't we just drive for a few hours and then get a motel? No, Jeff didn't want to do that. He wanted to, he's a hard-charging kind of guy. And he wanted to get there. So it wasn't a matter of, now we weren't going to get a room, and we were going to take a shortcut, because I said, well, why don't we just stay in the main, interstates? Oh, no, we got to take a shortcut. We'll get there quicker, and then, it'll be easier. And so we took Route 119. Anybody been on Route 119 going through West Virginia? You don't want to go down that route. Let me tell you, it is a horrible road. It is a 2-lane mountain road. Well, again, back then you didn't have GPS, you didn't have Google Maps and all that stuff, so you just kind of got the road map and tried to trace it. All night it rained. About, 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm driving. I just passed this flatbed truck going up this mountain, and I don't know what happened, but the car all of a sudden spun out. And fortunately, we spun out to the right, because to the left was the sheer mountain cliff to drop off. We were able to slide off into the ditch, okay, and I'm stuck. I can't get out. Fortunately, that truck that we had passed was a flatbed, 18-wheeler. He saw us and he stopped, and he had a big chain. Make a long story short, he was able to pull us out of the ditch. Wonderful. But I tell you, we were really shaking because it was like, it was scary. We could have easily slid in a different direction and slid off that mountain. Well, I drove a while longer and then got tired, and I said, Jeff, why don't you take over? And so he drove. And about 3:30 in the morning, I had this incredible sensation of just spinning. And I wake up and I look out the side window of the car, and we were doing 360s. Again, Jeff had, I guess, gone too fast for conditions. The car was spinning out. This time we spun out on the side of the road. It just happened to be a kind of a resting spot, or not a turnaround, but it was a flat area that you could, once again, if we had gone to the left, we would have slid off the mountain. This time we slid off level ground, but again, quite visibly shaken, because I thought, this is the second time that we almost lost our lives. Well, we got down there, found jobs, and made it back Sunday, made it back to Kent State, and that was wonderful. Monday, got up to run some errands after class, or either that or it was before class, and I noticed as I went out to the parking lot, I could smell gasoline. And of course, my dad was a car dealer, growing up around cars, and I said, well, that doesn't smell right. So something was wrong, and I had to look underneath my car, and I noticed at the back of the car was this big puddle of gasoline. And I realized that I had a crack in the gas tank. So of course, when I took it to get it fixed, I said, yeah, sure enough, that's what it was. It was a crack. Probably it happened because we had slid off that road into the ditch. And that's probably where the crack started. I thought, we could have not only run out of gas, but there could have been an explosion, a spark that could have hit that would just have caused the car to have blown up. Maybe we would have been in it. Because part of that time that we were down there looking for a job, we had to sleep in the car. Because Jeff was too cheap to get a motel room. And so, again, it was a very challenging, shall we say, experience. But we believed that God was calling us to do stateside missions and to be involved in this project. My point in terms of sharing the story is simply this. There are times in the Christian life when our faith is going to be tested. There are times when there's going to be a challenge in terms of what God is calling us to do. We've all heard stories here recently of those who are believers who literally lost their lives simply because they believe in Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. I don't know if that's coming to the United States, but there are times when we are asked to do things as it relates to our faith that is risky, that is a challenge. We're going to look again at a story about Peter's life, Matthew 14, where, it's a story when Jesus walks on the water. And Peter comes out and he does likewise. He is being challenged, Peter is. It's a test in terms of his faith. And by the way, why does God test us? And I've heard people say, well, God tests us because He wants to know how strong our faith is or how much faith we have. Well, that's not exactly theologically correct. If God knows everything there is to know, that means He knows how much faith I have. So the testing isn't so much so that God can know how our faith is, but it's so that we can know. Tim McGill needs to know how strong his faith is or how weak it is, what areas need to be strengthened, what areas that you're doing pretty good in. So it's more for our benefit, obviously, than it is for God. But again, there's going to be times when God may ask us to do things that possibly in other people's eyes will seem crazy, outrageous, challenging, even dangerous. I'll never forget the summer that when I went overseas to Kenya, Africa, and as we were going through training, international training, the speaker said, some of you guys may lose your lives because of where you're going in different parts of the world. Now, we're not purposely sending you to dangerous areas that we know are very, very dangerous, but you sometimes don't have any control. I think of going to Kenya, Africa that summer that I went. There was a civil war that was going on in Uganda, and some of that was spilling over into Kenya. And I never forget getting off the airplane in Nairobi and seeing military soldiers carrying machine guns at the airport. And I thought, whoa, this is serious business. But it sobered us in terms of realizing, maybe we could lose our lives either because of disease or accidents that happen, things that go on that are out of our control. That's part of the Christian life. That's part of growing in our faith, actually. Now, let me set the context here for the story. All four Gospels give the account of this event. It is in Matthew's gospel. The reason why I chose it is because only in Matthew's gospel is it recorded the conversation that Peter and Jesus have. Again, Jesus in his ministry is growing. People are beginning to follow him because of not only the power of his preaching, but they're seeing the miracles that he's doing among them, casting out demons, healing people, feeding. He's just fed the 5,000. Okay, so before this event, he's fed the 5,000, and some of the problem there is that the crowd decides they want to make Jesus king. And they want to take him by force to do this. And of course, Jesus understands the danger of being caught up in a popular movement that is contrary to God's will, or contrary to his mission. And even though he knows who he is, he understands that the path he needs to take in order to be king is going to be a different one from what the people want. And so he does a couple things. One, he sends the disciples on ahead of him, probably because he didn't want them to get caught up in this popular frenzy. But secondly, he also knows he needs to spend time with the Father. He's at a critical junction within his ministry, which is a good example for us. Anytime we are faced with important decisions, we should make sure that we take the time to spend with the Father, talking to him. For example, VBS is a very important ministry. And as I mentioned earlier, we need to be praying and asking, well, God, should we do this? Or do you want us to do something else in terms of outreach that would better fit maybe our resources and the manpower we have? I don't know. Maybe VBS is what God wants us to do. But it's always important to go before the Lord and say, well, Lord, what would you have us to do first? Rather than assuming, oh, this is what God wants. And we need to pray and just be in prayer for that. It's important. Let me do this. Let me encourage you to go to, if you're there, Matthew 14. That's good. Verses 22. The story is from 22 to 33. If you will notice there, in the text there, if you have your Bibles open, in verse 22, as I mentioned, Jesus makes the disciples get out of the boat, or get into the boat rather, and to go over to the other side of the lake. It is interesting here because the word made is a very strong word. It's a very forceful word. It means, it kind of carries with it the idea of where he's saying to them, get out of here now. Go. It's kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger, He says, do it now. It's in a command voice. And so, Jesus goes out to be alone with the Father. And he's spending some time. We're not exactly sure the exact hours, yes, hours, plural, that he spent. Well, we do know this, that he dispersed the crowd after feeding the 5,000. He dispersed the crowd. It was evening. And then when he joins the disciples, it says in the fourth watch, which means it's between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. So he has spent a number of hours praying to the Lord, refocusing his mission, perhaps praying for the disciples that they wouldn't be distracted, that they would stay focused. Now, meanwhile, the disciples are out on the lake, the Sea of Galilee there, which is a lake, and a storm comes up. Now, again, I want you to be mindful of the fact that some of the disciples that are there in the boat are seasoned fishermen. They know the Sea of Galilee like the back of their hand. They're at home in the waters. And they're used to crazy storms like this happening. Now, Mark's account of this situation, Mark 6:48, Mark says that they were straining at the oars. And what it means is that they have been rowing. It should not have taken them this many hours to get across the lake. They were going from the farthest parts of the Sea of Galilee, from east to west. They were cutting across at the top there. They were angling in. It was a short distance, really. They should have gotten there. Notice also that nowhere does it say that the storm was making them afraid. I grew up on Lake Erie, and there were times when we would go fishing on Lake Erie. There were a few times when we fished so far out in the lake. The lake was about 50 miles across, and we got out in the middle of the lake, and you could not see the lights from land, either on the Canadian side or the American side. I'll tell you what, it was scary. I mean, you're out there, and all you do, you can't see anything, especially if it was a cloudy night and it was Actually, one time we were out fishing that far out. It was cloudy, so you had no stars, you had no moon, you had no lights from land. It's like, wow, we are just out. And all you can hear is the slapping of the water, against the hull of the boat as you're fishing. Man, this is a little eerie. It's it is scary. I can't imagine these guys being in a storm, and rowing and not getting anywhere, straining at the oars. So we're rowing through the night. They're tired, coming off of watching, having a full day of ministry, and again, then they see something. Right? The text says that they see what looks like a ghost to them. Now realize where they were going from Capernaum to the other side of the Sea of Galilee was in the area called the Decapolis, which was known for demonic activity. Okay? In fact, that's where the Jews thought that's where the demons really reside, is in that area. So, there's some reason for them, maybe to feel a little frightened when they see this ghost-like figure that's coming out towards them. Now they're afraid, okay? Why? Well, again, not only because they may be thinking it's a demonic appearance, but this is something that's outside of any category of any miracle that I think they could imagine. I mean, sure, they've seen Jesus heal people. They've seen Jesus cast out demons from people. But walking on water through a storm in the middle of the night? I think they just can't imagine that it could be Jesus, so they're very frightened at what they see. Now, again, remember last week I said that the fear is one of the major themes that is brought out in not only the book of Luke, but also in Matthew's gospel too. 7 times in the gospel of Matthew, people encounter some manifestation of God, and they're afraid. They fear. And so each time this happens, the word from God is spoken to them, do not be afraid. In fact, look at Matthew 14, verse 27. See, when Jesus realizes that they are afraid, he immediately said to them, take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid. In other words, what Jesus is basically saying here is, hey, you don't need to be discouraged. Take heart. This is not something that is bad. You're seeing something wonderful and miraculous. So again, it's not something that you need to fear. God is doing something, okay? And so hopefully, he's thinking it's going to encourage them. Now, in between the call to be encouraged and the call to not be afraid is a wonderful declaration. A declaration of his presence. He says, it is I. Now again, perhaps all Jesus is doing is simply announcing that he is there. But the statement here sounds a little familiar, doesn't it? It kind of reverberates from throughout Scripture, going all the way back to Exodus, when Moses asks God, if the children of Israel ask me, who sent me? To whom do I say? And he said, I am that I am, Exodus 3:14. Jesus is saying this. He's saying, look, I am your Lord and Master who is present among you, especially during the storms of life, especially during the fears of uncertainty and the unexplainable. See, all this thing is happening literally. It's got application in many areas of our life even today. Even though we may never walk on water or even see Jesus do that again, the fact that he did it this time can be a great source of encouragement and a cause for us to mature. See, God is announcing his presence among not only the disciples there, but you and I, by extension today. And he's calling us to focus on him as our source of strength, as our source of perspective, if you will, understanding and faith. Well, let's look at our friend Peter, okay? I love this story, and I love what happens. In Matthew 14 through 17, the focus on these there's 3 episodes of Peter's life, and then there's greater detail that is given as it relates to this, but it's dealing with the aspect of how faith sometimes is risky. Point 2, if you're following along your notes. Faith sometimes is risky. Let's look at verses 25 to 29. See, Peter, it's now time for him to come front and center, okay? It says that shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking in the lake, they were terrified. It's a ghost, they said. They cried out of fear. But immediately Jesus, said to them, take courage, it is I, don't be afraid. Okay, now, notice what Peter says, okay? In verse 28, Peter says, Lord, if it's you, tell me to come out of the water. And of course, Jesus says, come. Now notice 29. It says that Peter got down out of the boat and walked on the water and came towards Jesus. Now that's amazing, isn't it? Now sometimes we've heard this story probably so many times we don't think anything about it, but think about this. Here's Jesus, or here's Peter is with the rest of the disciples, and they see this ghost-like figure coming towards them, and they all get frightened by that. But he says, when he begins to realize, wait a minute, that's Jesus. He says, Lord, since it's you, if you call me, I'll come walk on the water too. Now, did you ever think what was going on in Peter's mind? I mean, had he clearly thought this thing through? Probably not. We know Peter is kind of an impulsive type of personality. As I mentioned, some think that he may have had what we call ADD today. But maybe he's just a guy. Peter strikes me as a guy that was fun-loving. And maybe he saw this as something new, something crazy, and he wanted to be part of it. Or could it be something deeper? You remember, what has Jesus been doing in the lives of the disciples? Well, he's been revealing a little more about who he is, about his power, his authority. See, they're looking for the Messiah, and they think Jesus is different, but I'm not so sure that they realize that he really is the Son of God. So Peter is seeing the wonder of who Christ is unfolding step by step. And I think what Peter is doing here is actually an act of faith. Yeah, he may have thought, hey, it's pretty cool. But I think he's recognizing that this man Jesus is marked by God. I mean, Peter is starting to call him Lord and Master, although I think it's more of an intellectual assent to who Christ is than really understanding the full ramifications of this. But Peter is identifying more with Jesus more and more. He sees that this is someone who has been sent by God and who is worthy of his complete devotion, of following him completely in life. And so now here we are at this next level of this miraculous intervention. And Peter is basically saying, look, I want to be attached to the one who is doing this miracle. I want to be able to walk out there with him. I believe I can do it. And so in response to the vision of Jesus that has been growing in his faith, in his heart, his faith is growing, Peter takes this crazy, wild step. And he says basically this, Jesus, if you call me, I'll get out of the boat and walk towards you. And how does Jesus respond? Well, he says, come on out. The water's fine, man. Oh, he didn't say that, but he said, come, The interesting thing here is this. If Jesus is God, and he is, and that means he knows everything there is to know, and therefore he must know how this thing's going to end up. I mean, did you ever think about what may have been on Jesus' face? Is it possible that Jesus had a smile? Maybe even chuckle under his breath because he knew where this was going. But he invites Peter to come out, I think with a smile on his face. I think he has a wonderful thought towards Peter. Jesus is accepting Peter's dream. Peter's willing to dream big dreams. Think about it, man. How many of you would get out of the boat and walk? I ain't raising my hand. I'm not so sure I would. I'd be like the other 11, probably just sitting there going, okay, Peter, what are you doing? Have you ever wondered what the disciples must have thought? What was going through their minds? Do you think there might have been a few eyes that rolled or thoughts like, oh man, you gotta be kidding. Is this for real, Peter? Have you thought this thing clearly through? Well, it didn't matter. You see, the initiative that was going on here is Peter's part, not Jesus. Jesus didn't walk up and say, hey, anybody want to get out of the boat and walk? Come on, let's go walk with me in the water. No, it originates with Peter. Now, Jesus invites him to follow in this crazy, wild dream. Step out of the boat, you know. He allows that. He welcomes Peter. And so Peter does it. Think about this for a minute. Peter was actually walking on the water. Now, we don't know how far he went, but I like to think that he probably got a fair distance from the boat, to where he got out there recognizing that, hey, I'm literally in the middle of this lake. I can't just kind of reach back at the boat. I'm out there. I can't lunge towards Jesus. A little too far for that. And of course, when he's out there realizing that, the scripture says that he saw the wind, which basically means he saw the effects of the wind. He probably felt the water, slapping up on his legs. He could probably feel the walk on water. This is crazy. And of course, the Bible says he starts to doubt. And when he doubts, he begins to sink. The Bible says that whatever is not of faith is sin. It also says in Hebrews that without faith it is impossible to please God. For he who comes to God must believe that he is, must believe that his character is what he says he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who seek him. Interesting. As we look at this. Well, in Matthew 14:30, it says that when Peter saw the wind, he was frightened. Okay, he began sinking. But he cries out. He says, Lord, save me. Isn't that interesting? He starts to go down. Sometimes we focus so much on the negative aspect of Peter. I've heard so many sermons on Peter blew it because he got his eyes off of Jesus. Well, that's true. And he started to look around at circumstances. Those are great, it's a great analogy to what happens sometimes in our life. But then we miss the point. Wait a minute. He was walking on the water. He was actually doing it. He was going for it. Don't you love that? He took a risk of faith and was actually succeeding. Well, yeah. He did take his eyes off of Jesus. That did cause him to have some doubt. But what a beautiful picture of God's grace when you look at this. Because what does Scripture say, verse 31? As soon as Peter cries out for help, Matthew records that immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. Isn't that wonderful? Now, do you think that has any direct application to you and I today? Absolutely. Absolutely. That promise is true for us. When you and I cry out because we are acting in faith and we're taking steps of faith, even though maybe it seems like this is crazy. And other people are saying, it can't work. You shouldn't waste your time. We take those steps of faith and believe it. God will bless. And if we do get in trouble, he's immediately there to help us. Now, he's going to use this. Don't be wrong. Jesus is going to use this as a teachable moment, right? Because after Peter's safe and secure, and again, I bet Jesus had a big smile on his face when he says, hey, you have little faith. Why'd you doubt? See, that question is meant to force the person receiving it to think, why did I doubt? I mean, it was working. I was walking on the water. I was doing something that was incredibly miraculous. Help me think about that. The same thing's true for us today. He uses us, Jesus uses it as a teachable moment. Same thing for us when maybe similar things happen. Where there's a step of faith, and we start to go for it, but we fail. Why? Again, I think that Jesus is much more pleased with Peter's failure in the water than he is with the other guys that are still sitting in the boat. More relatively safe and secure than Peter. Peter's bold faith, even though it falters, brings a wonderful demonstration, I think, of grace. Grace from God and his care, his concern. In the next message that we're going to give, you're going to see more of a detail on how Jesus teaches Peter through failure. But Jesus honors Peter's faith. How? By rescuing him. And then helping him to think through this. Look at how Pete, you were going for it, man. You were doing it. What happened? What caused you to falter? Well, in verse 32 of chapter 14, it says, when they climbed into the boat and the wind died down, even those who were in the boat began to worship him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." Now, this is important, because the title Son of God, if you were Jewish, you would know that what they are doing is they are giving this sacred title that is reserved for Messiah. See, in some small measure, I think the disciples are beginning to see Jesus a little more clearly. He's just not some powerful teacher. They're recognizing that he's more than just someone who's marked out by God. You see? And yes, they fall and they worship him. But again, I'm not sure that they completely see him as Messiah. I don't think they're quite there yet, but they're getting closer. See, there's a lot of people around us that are in a similar state. They want to see God, and they're seeing pieces of God, bits of him, as God unveils who he is, but they're not there quite yet. Maybe people who come to church on a regular basis. They're interested. They're seeking. But they haven't come to that full understanding of the gospel message yet, or more completely who Christ is. And so it's our job to help them to see who that is. You see, there's a response to the story as it relates to our lives. You see, point 3, our response, as God begins to reveal himself to us more fully, our response is one of worship and obedience. See, it was right for these men to fall on their faces and worship him, and ascribe the name that is perhaps the highest name in their vocabulary, Son of God. See, we too also have a responsibility, an attitude, a proper attitude of worship we should have, but not just on Sunday morning. We should have this attitude of worship and reverence throughout the course of our week, every day. A way in which we want to honor the Lord, a way in which we want to bring glory to his name because of the way we think and the things we do. You see, that's part of worship. We don't need to worry about taking steps of faith because of what we know about Jesus. We can take these risks. We've even failed. Why? Because Jesus promises he will graciously lift us up. I mean, think about it. Especially as you get older. How many times, because I'm in this state, I think, at times, of calculating things, of thinking too deeply or too much about something. I got to make sure all my ducks are in a straight row. I got to know how is this going to affect my finances? How is this going to affect my family or my reputation? And again, it's not wrong to be wise, but in practical matters, sometimes I just want to eliminate so much risk and make it so secure that, I don't do anything. You've probably heard me say this, but in the 30-some years that Denise and I worked on the college campus with athletes at Penn State, we have yet to ever meet an athlete who said, all I want to do is go to Penn State on this team and sit the bench. Every athlete we met wanted to play. Send me in, coach. Now, again, frankly, some of them were not good enough, and they didn't. But I've yet to meet an athlete that said, all I want to do is sit the bench. It's all. I'm content. No. They wanted to get actively involved, and they did. But again, sometimes they weren't good enough to play, but the attitude was such that they were willing to do whatever the coach said they needed to do in order to try to get to the level they needed to be in order to contribute. See, sometimes we think we need a greater safety net than we really do. Because who is our greatest safety net? Is it not Jesus? I mean, the story here, Peter tells us that the only safety net that will never fail is Jesus Christ himself. And so when he says, get out of the boat, walk, let's do it. We can do it. See, knowing that the safety net is Christ himself, that allows for us incredible freedom to dream big dreams, to establish bold goals, and to trust God to see that happen. Well, the second response is closely related to this, in that it has to do with faithful obedience. We are charged every day to walk in obedience to Christ and what he desires for us to do. And when you think about it, there's a lot of challenges that we have. Again, how this applies in your life, in my life, I don't know. It's going to vary because of where we're at. But I do know this. It is a challenge to walk with Christ. It is a challenge to follow His will. And again, I don't know exactly what the challenges may be in your life, what God's asking you to do. I know that as a church, we are faced with a lot of challenges. Challenges in terms of VBS. We have challenges in terms of the youth ministry. And how do we get that? And how are we going to reach the community for Christ? Our Sunday morning services. Trusting God to raise the funds that we need to make the upgrades in church. There's a lot of things that God is asking us to trust Him for. Their challenges, their tests. See, are we going to believe that God is who He says He is and that He will do what He says He will do? Again, I think we need to take to heart what has happened here in Peter's life and how God showed Himself, how Christ showed Himself to be so faithful in terms of helping Him and honoring Him. Now, Peter's still got a long way to go, but let me tell you something. Granted, he may not be where he should be, but he's not where he once was. He's grown in his understanding. God's going to bless him as a result of that. As we come to the point in our worship service for communion, these are some good thoughts for us. I think the communion service could be a good time for us. Ushers, if you will come forward, or deacons, if you transition into the communion time. There are some visual thoughts from not only this story, but also the banners that we placed on the wall there. The wondrous cross. What Jesus did, His death on the cross, makes this all possible. Possible for us to take these steps of faith and trust Him, to allow Him to be the one that is going to change us and mature us. And so I want to encourage you that as we go through the elements here of communion, that you just take some time to think about how the story of Peter impacts your life and what God wants to do in you and through you. And again, we will continue to give Him the